Mr. Shravan Tikku, Product Manager at Byju's. Hi Shravan, welcome to the event.
Thank you very much, Monica. It's a pleasure to be here, and thank you very much for calling to this flagship event. And happy to help all of you guys. It's once again, it's very heartfelt, and let's start the session and help as many students as we can. Yeah,
Okay. So with that, Shravan, let's start a discussion for the day.
absolutely.
And starting with, could you let us know how your journey has been from being at college to a product manager at Byju's?
Sure. So, Monica, very interesting question actually. I am basically a Kashmiri Pandit. So, going to IIT was not something that I had actually planned in life. Very artistic guy from the very early onset of life. So, IIT happened by serendipity. Like, parents said that it's probably the best place to do your engineering, and that's how most of the Indian parents tell you. So, going over there, what really happened was that what my branch was metallurgical engineering. So very clearly I was not really interested in the branch. I thought I had to do something interesting in life. So in the second year, Android was in full flush, and we thought, why don't we do a startup? Why don't we solve some problem? So we had this interesting problem, and we wanted to solve that. And few of my friends and bunch of other people started building an app. And what happened was that app got organically downloaded in Arizona in the US over 2 lakh times, 200,000 times. And then we realized that this was a problem that we thought as a problem, but it's somewhere for some people in the world, it's a huge problem that we were trying to solve. It was something like a Waze for cops. So I sold off that startup, and then at that point of time, I realized this is what I want to do for my life. If problem solving is something that really excites me and that can become my livelihood, that is something amazing, right? So I started
Yeah.
out looking for avenues that which is the closest field to this. What can I do which is very similar? And I stumbled upon this field called product management. Since then, uh, after college, I joined Flipkart. Very fortunate to work with the founders of Flipkart to understand how the company worked at scale. And then I've moved across multiple places. I worked in Flipkart, I worked in logistics for a while. There's a company called Blackbuck, which is an Uber for trucks. And finally, in the last 3 years, I fell in love with education. And education has been very core to me. So in the last 3 years, I worked for this company called Edureka, and currently for Byju's, I work as a lead product manager, where I lead their synchronous learning platform. What I mean by synchronous learning is something like a tuition learning, that there's a structure to it. So my journey has been pretty interesting because at the very core, product management is just about problem solving. Like, how do you solve a problem which effectively translates the previous experience and improves it by 10x? Gives instant gratification to the user. But there is only one fundamental difference. Like, problem solving is as simple as going to a shop and buying milk. If you want to buy milk, you go to a shop and buy milk. The only difference that product managers bring, other than problem solvers, why are these two any different words? Why don't we call product managers problem solvers only? The only difference is we solve it at scale. Buying milk for one person is a very simple step, going to a shop and doing it.
Yeah.
But if you do it at a scale of 100 million users, then it becomes an insanely hard problem to solve. And as I keep speaking, product management is about solving non-deterministic problems into deterministic solutions. What I mean by that is this world is not structured. It is not like the outcome is fixed like a game of chess. Like, you know that I know that if I reach to the other end, I'll get a queen or I'll win the match. Most of the variables are very different. So we product managers, what we do, we look at multiple variables like location, geography, what is the need of the user, and then try to articulate them into some solution which the user would be able to derive value from very seamlessly. Like this live platform, if this would have not been there, all of these folks would have not been there listening to the same lecture that I'm speaking about. So somebody thought about this problem and solved for it. So that is how my journey has been, and it has been very passionate, very curious about how do you solve stuff, how do you do different things in life, and come up with some solutions which users can immediately derive value from. And that is what is my everyday job also.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So nice to hear that, Shravan. And I really love how you compared the game of chess and product management. It's so
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah.
So, just to know a little bit more about this role,
Sure.
what exactly does a product manager do at Byju's? Like,
Sure.
for example, you open your laptop at, let's say, 9 in the morning and you
Sure.
close it in the evening or maybe late evening. So,
Sure.
what exactly it happens? What does a typical work day or week look like of a product manager at Byju's?
Sure. So I think product management, again, at the very core, is about how do you solve problems. So as a product manager, what we functionally try to understand is whether it's a old product or a new product. What is the new thing that we can build which can add value to the users. Like, let me give you a very simple example. If there is a live stream happening, like if there is a live thing happening, and I know that the teacher typically in classes also wants to present a lot of things on the whiteboard, on the blackboard. Now that is an experience students are well versed with, right?
Yes.
And they fundamentally try to understand, okay, if he wants to explain something, the teacher will write something on the board, right? So
Yes.
how do you build that as a functionality in the product, so that even if the tutor is available somewhere in North America and the student is in Telangana, how does he get the same experience? Now that's just the first part of it. The second part of it is, how do you improve that experience? What I mean by that is, in a typical tuition class, you see that the teacher takes a chalk and tries to write on the board, but that's the best he can do because it's a physical entity, right? But
Yeah.
on online platforms, you can also put across games, modify it in some ways so that students are enjoying that experience, enjoying that. So a typical day comes across like, I start my day, I typically look around, what are my core product metrics? Is my product doing well? What I mean by a metric is, again, taking an example of a shop. The shopkeeper, for his metric is that if I have 100 packets of milk today, am I able to sell them every day? Am I able to shell off the inventory and make some profit out of it? Similarly, like a product, you look at multiple metrics. How many students have come in? And I look at those metrics for 1.5 hours to understand the health of my product. Then typically I go across talking to teams, multiple teams, like engineering, like sales, like marketing, to understand that, okay, where is the progress on the previous products or the previous features that we want to release, and try to
Mhm.
understand their bottlenecks. What are the challenges they are facing? Is there something that we can do from a business side, from a vision side, or something from a tech side, architecture side? Then try to understand that. Then invest some amount of time, that is very critical for a product manager, is with the students or with the consumers that you have, to understand, sir, this is the problem, sir, this is what I'm facing, can you build something around this? Okay, was your experience of a particular class good or not? So that is the third part. Like, we spend a lot of time with consumers to understand what are their needs, what are
Mhm.
their wants, so that we can build something that really excites them. And towards the fag end of the day, we try to look at the I typically try to look at what the ecosystem is doing, what is the maturity of the user, read about multiple other products. Can there be some innovation that we can do which I am not aware of, which other people are doing? So in a typical day, it's like 4 chunks. Initially, you look at your core metrics, how your product health is doing, then
Mhm.
spend some amount of time on operational execution, where you spend time with engineering, tech, sales, and other pieces, so that you see that the product process is going smoothly and we are moving towards an outcome, the desired outcome. The third and the most critical part is spend time with consumers. Every day, try to figure out 30 to 45 minutes to talk to students every day, to understand their needs, their wants, and take out ideas from them, so that this is the next thing that we want to build. And the fourth part
Mhm.
is spend time with great people to understand what the ecosystem is doing. And this is what is very, very interesting about the job. You do multitude of things in a single day, and then when you sleep at night, you realize, okay, this is the next thing that I want to do, this is the next thing that I
Yeah.
want to build. So that is my typical day. And I think at the very core, it is for any organization which is good in product management, it is the same way how people do things. Just the nuances change across industry to industry. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Wonderful, wonderful, Shravan. So, before going deeper into the product management role,
Yeah.
so what exactly do you refer as a product? So, it is always a digital, or can it be a physical product as well? Like you mentioned, the shopkeeper
Sure.
example.
Sure.
So, in the the plethora of product management, what exactly a product refers to?
Sure. So I think what you have to fundamentally understand, a product can be anything. It is not
Mhm.
necessarily a digital product. It can be anything. It can be any service that you're trying to sell. But why we talk typically about digital products is because products only make sense at scale. If I'm trying to solve a problem for 5 people, it's just a service layer experience. Like, at the very core, what is Uber and Ola? It's a spreadsheet. On left
Yes.
hand side there are cars, on right hand side there is supply, and you're trying to
Mhm.
match them. But if you want to try to scale them, if you want to scale it, you need to have the internet, because internet is the only way that a multitude of 100 million people, 200 million people, 300 million people would be able to access it. So what I typically call as a product is, or something like a fledgling product, is that if it has substantial amount of scale to solve a particular problem.
Mhm.
This is where it gets differentiated from a project to a product.
Okay.
A project is something that you and me can derive value from, right? Or 10 people can derive, or a small sample set of things can derive value from. But when it translates as a product, it typically goes to a large scale where a lot of people are deriving value from it. And that can only happen, at least currently, that's the only structure that can happen through the internet. Internet is the
Yeah.
best way to connect the world, right? So that's why we keep talking about digital products like apps, websites. But
Mm.
apps and websites are not products. Products are something, it's an idea which is formulated into some structure which is giving you value at all point of time. So it can be a physical product also, it can be a showroom that you go to, effectively a product. Yeah.
Okay, okay, nice. So it seems like there are maybe a lot of challenges moving from tech background to education and all that. So what
Yeah.
are some
Yeah.
challenges that you face in the current role in as a product manager?
Sure. So I think from a challenge standpoint, the biggest challenge is to get hold of the fact that there will always be constructive criticism. What
Hmm.
I mean by that is that if all the people, like at the very core, why do you hire good talent? What I mean by good talent is people who are really, really passionate about solving problems, right? Now, when people are fundamentally passionate about problem solving and they are very talented, they all have their own opinions. So, as a product manager, it is very, very important and critical to build them in a structure that everybody aligns to a particular area and everybody's putting their energies at the right place. Like a tech guy might tell you that okay, live platforms are not scalable because India still has 33 crore people on 2G. It's not
Yeah.
possible, right? There might be a business guy, he says that it's easy for me to sell live learning because it gives personalized attention. There might be a
Yeah.
marketing guy who might tell you, okay, there isn't enough demand in tier 3 cities. What do I do about it? Right now, all of those people effectively are trying to build a great product, but they are on different pages. So as a product manager, it is very critical that you come in the center and tell, okay, I take 3 bits from you, 3 bits from you, 3 bits from somebody else, and create a single thought process and try to put all your energies there. And when you align most of the people in that direction, then it becomes very smooth. Then the execution happens very rapidly and we can experiment a lot. So that is the first part. That is the difficult part of aligning a lot of great people into the same direction. That is very core. The second part that is very critical as a product manager, which is very difficult, is to define experiment design. What I mean by that is, like, if I am trying to build a product for people who travel in trains, right?
Hmm.
And if
Yeah.
I try to target an audience who typically travels in planes, I will never get the
Mm.
right insights. They are very different people. Like if I go to someone who has the ability to buy a 1 lakh rupee phone, I tell him that there's a phone launched by Nokia at 1,000 rupees and this gives five different features. He would say, I don't care. I don't care.
Yeah.
So as a product manager, this becomes very critical to do experiment design at the very core. Like, am I building it for the right people? And that
Mhm.
takes a lot of time. You have to do a lot of user interviews, you have to fundamentally remove your biases. And one of the biggest problem that you have in product management and in general in thinking per se is confirmation bias. What I mean by confirmation bias is if 100 people are speaking about the same thing, it makes it right. It generally isn't that way. So as product managers, you have to be very objective that whatever I'm doing, am I doing it for the right people? Am I doing it in a measured way? And that takes a lot of time. That doesn't happen rapidly. It's like gym. You have to build
Yeah.
that hypothesis over time. Like you
Yes.
cannot become a bodybuilder in 2 days. You have to invest six
Of
weeks or six
course.
months into it. So that is
Yeah.
the second critical problem. And third most critical problem that you fundamentally have to understand is how do you do a POC, a
Mhm.
proof, some sort of proof of basically the experiment that you're
Concept.
doing. Yeah, proof of concept or proof of experiment, that whatever you want to do. The reason there
Mhm.
is because here, as a product manager, a lot of the company's resources are at stake. If you do a large experiment, it might be a job for you, but for the company, it might change their entire direction. Like if
Yeah.
I invest 10 crore rupees of a company at a particular place, I might fail, but for the company, the loss is huge because you are doing something very strategic. For you, it might be that you are moving to another job. That it's okay, right? So you have to be very self-critical about what you are trying to bring across. What are you trying to put across the table, and how much does it take? So the bets that we make are very strategic, and these are the three things, that is like aligning all stakeholders, doing the right set of experiments, and
Mhm.
understanding that what sort of experiment should I do before I take it to scale, before I put all my resources into it. So that is how it is typically across. Yeah.
Okay, great to know that, Shravan. So, can you give any example from your own career, like wherein you have faced such kind of challenges, and how did you tackle them?
Yeah. So I think one of the fundamental challenges that we faced in Byju's was, I would talk about a very recent example, was that we wanted to figure out what is the best, like, supplementary education market, which is the tuition market, is
Mm-hmm.
typically going to double in the next 2 years. Online supplementary education, that's what I'm talking about. Because of COVID and because of multiple other reasons, it's going to become a $30 billion industry. Currently, it's a $16 billion industry. Now, the point was, what is that one model that would fit to the masses? Because at the scale of Baiju operates, it's not a business that you would want for 10,000 users or 1 lakh users. It's a business that you would ideally want 50 million people using at the same time, right?
Yes.
So what we found, functionally try to understand what is that one model that works. We realized that live would not work because a lot of people don't have access to the internet. We realized that, okay, if live doesn't work, then recorded content and probably a support ecosystem around it, like somebody like a
Mm-hmm.
live chat or something, that might work, but that
Yeah.
lacks attention. So what do you do about it? And we experimented that like 2 months, 3 months, invented resources into it. But finally, what we realized is there is never going to be one thing that will work.
Mm.
So what we tried to do is, we instead, in the last 3 months, we came to this conclusion, and I invested like hell lot of energy in making them understand that this is not going to work. So
Yeah.
we built a horizontal product layer and we plugged multiple products into it. Like if Monica has the ability to pay $500 a year, she may buy
Mm-hmm.
a live product like you and me are talking. But on
Yeah.
the contrary, if somebody is in a tier 3 town where the average income is like 10,000 bucks of
Mm-hmm.
the rent, they might take a 2,000 rupee product and say that it's okay,
Exactly.
I don't want live, but I want good content. and
Yeah.
and what are we fundamentally solving? We are solving access. So this was that one core challenge where I had to explain and I have to make Baiju understand that one thing is never going to work, because we are a very distributed ecosystem. A lot
Yes.
of purchasing power disparity, linguistic bias, people come from different backgrounds, different boards.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like a country like China where everything is homogeneous. It's not. We are unity in diversity. that
Yeah.
that's what we do as India. That's our ethos. So we had to build like this horizontal service layer, and it took me like literally like 6 odd months to persuade the management to come to a point that this makes sense. And that is probably something like one of the core things that I am proud of, at least in the last 10 months. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, great, Shravan. So, what do you think people who are in college or just out of college how should they develop their skills and capabilities to tackle such kind of challenges?
Sure, sure. So I think it's a very similar question that keep freshers or people typically from college backgrounds keep asking me. How do we move into product management? Because this seems like a very interesting field, right?
Yeah.
It seems like you're doing something that is very challenging. It's not like a monotonous job of writing code all the time or doing sales all the time, right? So
Yeah.
one thing I tell them is that product management are very, very, what they are not, they're dispensable people. It's not like sales kal ko chala gaya chhod ke, so it stops. Like, but we as product managers, if we leave the company, nothing happens. So you have to typically move from dispensable to indispensable part. You have to become. How does that happen? That typically happens when you have passion for a problem. So the first way to typically solve it is, if you like a certain problem in life, like it can be any problem. Like I want to solve food for pets.
Mhm.
Try to understand that problem, pick it in your mind, and try to understand what is the current solution around it, and do a very small construct or a very small POC. It can be very simple, like build a $10 website and send it
Mhm.
to your friends, and do some, and it can be very small. People think that it is very difficult to make an app and do all of that stuff, but trust me, on internet you can do everything in less than $50 and do a very small POC. Like, I know a shop which can sell very cheap stuff. I have a website. He can upload their stuff over there, and I can send it to the target audience. If they like it,
Mhm.
they purchase it, and you solve the problem. And now, if you solve that problem, you can put it down in pen and paper and create some sort of a portfolio for yourself. Like, I solved this project, I solved these 5 products, I solved these 5 problems. And then, as a fresher, then you don't send your resume, you
Mhm.
send your portfolio across. Say,
Yeah.
because the moment you send your resume, there will always be a guy who will have better credentials than you. If even Shravan sends his resume, there's always going to be a guy who's from Harvard and say, okay, I'm from Harvard, why should I hire you? So why are you competing at a point which is not scalable. So compete at a point, because people don't want Howard guys. They want great acumen guys who can bring talent. So let's compete at acumen. And if your portfolio goes there with your resume, the guy would say, okay, I know the resume, but I have seen the portfolio also. Like, he has solved these 5 things and he thinks like this. So he seems like a smart chap. So why don't I give him a chance? Why don't I? And so this approach solves 3 things for you. One, the guy would fundamentally understand, the interviewer would fundamentally understand that this guy is very passionate. He solved a problem without even telling. So that means if he's really passionate about it, if he comes into the company, he would try to do the same thing. That's the first part. The second part, he gets the understanding of how you think. Through your resume, it's just lines, right?
Yeah.
You don't understand that how Monica thinks or Shravan thinks, right? But your product or your portfolio that you've made shows that what is your thinking ability. That's the second part. And the third part is, even if you don't go through, you still have a portfolio to showcase to some other recruiter also, to other interviewer also. So these are the 3 things that effectively try to improve your chances getting into product management or in this particular field. And the last part around it is it, and that is something that is very, very tangible, but people don't think about it. If you try to do that again and again, it improves you as a thinker. It
Yeah.
helps you improve your problems. It helps you improve your problem solving ability. Like, first you created a website, you forgot about 10 things. Next time you create it, you forgot about only 8 things. And there will be a time when you would come to a point that you will build a website taking all into consideration and do it in 2 days, 3 days. So your thinking ability improves and you improve as a thinker. So that is the best way to approach if you want to typically move into product management. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so just continuing with this thought, if, for example, an interviewer asks a candidate,
Sure.
how would you build a product that sells the used products?
Sure.
So, how would a candidate approach should be like ideally?
Sure. Sure, I think used products can be fallen into multiple categories. So I think any product that you have to fundamentally approach, any service that you have to first try to build across, you have to understand who is your target set, and you build some sort of a hypothesis around it. Ki, okay, used smartphones would be relevant to college students because they don't have that much amount of disposable income and they are very internet savvy. So that's a hypothesis bet. First, at the very core, you try to build some bets around it. Ki, okay, I think this is relevant to these people. You
Okay.
might make 7 bets around it, and out of those 7, only 2 might be true. But what you do is, then you go to that guy and simply say, okay, this is a small thing that I've made. Is this a problem for you? So he gives you his feedback. You take that iterative feedback and try to come up with some sort of a solution. Okay, I have understood that 7 out of 10 people said that this is actually a problem, and this is the solution that I've brought to you. It can be a very small scribble on the phone itself, on the paper itself, that this is a website. If this website would have existed, would you have used it? Would you have paid
Yes.
for it? Right? And you go there and take your feedback. And if you get like, that's typically my benchmark. If 7 out of 10 people say that it makes a lot of sense, then you try to put some energy in the product. Like, then you probably invest 2,000 rupees and build a website around it and say, okay, this is what I have built. Why don't you use it? Why don't you use it? And if you consistently see that some transactions have started happening, people have got it, then at that point of time, you try to improve upon the features. Like, then somebody would tell you, like, okay, I was able to buy the used product, but the product wasn't good. Can I refund it across? Now you have not built a refund feature, right?
Yeah.
Then you get that feedback. Okay, so I need this. Okay, then somebody might say, okay, I like the product, but I don't trust it. Is there a 30-day return back guarantee? Then you functionally try to understand that this is something that I need, or this is something that would be very critical to the users. Okay, then the third part is, okay, is there somebody might say, and you get that feedback that, okay, I was not able to find the right phones on your website. I was trying to, your filters don't work fine. And you constantly get that feedback. You iteratively explore till you achieve, there is something called product market fit. Product market fit means that 80% of the people who are coming to your website are able to do that intended action of basically buying a phone, selling a used product, or basically making a transaction. And the moment 80% of the people are seamlessly able to do that, that is when you have achieved product market fit. And that is how I would have approached. Simply go to the set, try to understand what's their feedback, create a very small POC around it. It might be a website, it might be an app. Then take iterative feedback, keep it doing for the next 6 weeks. What do you want? What
Mm-hmm.
do you want? What are the things that you find difficult? Keep improving until I reach to a point where I see that 80% of the people who are coming to my website are effectively able to do the thing that I wanted them to do.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Then let's, if we are more specific, like we want to build a mobile app that
Yeah.
helps sell the
Yeah.
used goods.
Yeah.
So, what do you describe it as from the point of POC till the building the actual product? So,
Yeah.
what does the whole framework look like?
Yeah. Very simple. So like if you want to create a mobile app, why don't you just put across and invest some, hire a freelancer, do a very
Mm-hmm.
simple thing, and identify the core flows. The user should be able to sign in, that he should be able
Okay.
to create his profile, he should be able to discover the right products. For
Mm-hmm.
that, what filters do you need? Like, do you need a price filter, because price is very relevant to this? Do you need a age filter, like it's a 2 year old mobile phone, 3 year old mobile phone? You try to build that. Then the third thing is, do you integrate a payment channel with it? Like if he wants to do, or do you build an interaction channel with it, that like OLX, he wants to talk to the owner, that what's the quality of the phone, I want to see it
Yeah.
across. Then you build a payment channel, and finally payment, then there's a delivery process. Now you see that from a mobile app standpoint, there are certain nuances which are not even in control of the mobile app. Like,
Hmm.
how do you build a flow in which somebody like Monica or Shravan can come and say, I have an old phone and I want to put it on your app? So you have to also build a supply flow into it.
Yes.
Then you also have to build a delivery flow. Like, the user would not go to, if the phone is in Telangana and I am in Jammu and Kashmir, he would not fly to Jammu and Telangana for a 3,000 buck phone.
Yeah.
So ideally, you would want to build a delivery network also. So you have to build that into the product also. But even before you do any of it, just do the core service, finding the right phone, and are students willing to pay for it? It's
Mm-hmm.
as simple as that. And identify the core levers. There should be a sign up, there should be a discovery element with some filters around it, there should be a payment channel, and there should be a checkout and some sort of a process that the phone would reach to you in 7 days or something like that. It's as simple as that. As simple as that. And then you build nuances, personalized elements around it, like how do you find a phone, how do you recommend a phone. All of those are like at later stage, not part of the MVP, which we call as minimum viable product, which is
Mm-hmm.
viable for most of the audience. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So in this case, if I understood it correctly,
Yeah.
it is like I need to visualize what is the service that I'm offering with this product, and then how do I translate actually into a mobile app?
Yeah.
So if this is what I have to do, and
Correct.
then select the key features that are usable and which are not usable, and segregate and all that.
Yes.
Okay.
So,
Wonderful.
yes.
Wonderful.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, then moving into your role again. So, what would be the future look like for a product manager?
Mhm. So I think product management is kind of very ill-defined right now. I'll tell you why. Because
Mhm.
product managers are thought as thought leaders, but I don't think that it is something that is just bottled to this role. I think
Mhm.
what is going to happen later down, that organizations in every function are going to become very experimentative, which is the current part of product management. Because if marketing has to innovate, or anybody has to innovate for that matter, he has to experiment a lot. He has to do multiple experiments to understand that. Because with the time, like, the user is not using your service, he's also maturing as a user. If the internet
Yeah.
ecosystem improves, then there might not be even relevance for something like a old service smartphone, or like a 6 year old smartphone which doesn't give you smartphone connectivity, right? So the
Yeah.
future of product management is going to be at least the five things that I think about. Most of the execution process is going to go
Hmm.
away. It's going to get automated. It's going to get
Okay.
automated. A lot of time is going to get invested in how do you strategically define things, that what are the next steps. The second thing that is going to be very, very critical is that the organizations itself are going to become more product oriented, and they're going to be more product led. Because something that is operationally driven is not scalable at that level. Like, how many people can you hire? So effectively they are going to become more scalable and feature led. That's going to be something very critical. For the third and the most critical piece for product managers is going to become, they are going to be cross functional. Right now product
Mhm.
managers come from either tech or some MBA background, but you would functionally find people coming from arts background and going into product management, or even from law.
Okay.
Or even doctors can become product managers. I'm being very honest about it, because at the very core it's problem solving, right? You're typically
Yeah.
solving a problem, that's it, right? So it's going to be very, very horizontally diversified. It's going to become that, like that. And the fourth and the most critical piece that I fundamentally believe that is going to happen is that as internet becomes more scalable, it is going to become very cohesive. So you would find a product manager in America building a product for Indonesia. It's going to
Hmm.
become global. It's
Yeah.
not going to happen that it's going to be linguistically diverse. Right now, German product managers build typically German products, but as the world is typically growing, it's going to become very, very global, and remote opportunities are going to boom like anything. Like, you would do your job sitting here and putting forward an idea, and somebody is building it for you. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. That's nice. That's nice to hear, and also very encouraging to hear for all the aspiring product managers. And do you see a lot of people joining in product management nowadays? And if yes, what are the demand is like? How many openings are there? For example, in Byju's per se. So
Yeah.
how is it like the demand and supply part?
Yeah. So I think product management has recently become very popular, but it was there for the last 30-35 years. People were
Mm-hmm.
not really aware of it, because the problem is that product managers, people earlier didn't even understand what they do, right? And now, and because most people thought that engineering to code likhta hai, engineering writes code. What do these people do? They come and direct people to do stuff like ye karna hai, tumhe ye karna hai, tumhe ye karna hai. But what slowly and steadily people fail to understand is that these core product managers, they are here not to drive executional stuff. They are here to bring insights. Like the VP of growth in Facebook, what he realized
Mm-hmm.
very early on, doing very interesting experiments, and he was a product manager, and he's a
Yeah.
billionaire right now, right? He realized that if Facebook has 7 friends, if you add 7 friends while in the first 3-4 odd days, you would never leave the platform, because
Mm.
you would keep adding. It's a network effect, right? You keep adding more people. But if Monica joins Facebook and doesn't add like 7 friends in the first 7 days, it's not really difficult for her to leave the platform, because it doesn't add any value, right? So
Yeah.
this insight was typically brought by a product manager who was doing experiments over there and looking at that data, right? With time, what happened, people realized that this is the only way when we can look at these tangible insights and
Mm-hmm.
build products on top of it. So we need people for that, and we need people from different, and that's why the demand has shot up like anything. Also, with the rapidly evolving startup ecosystem, when we are
Mm-hmm.
building digital products, like Swiggy wasn't there 6 years back, right?
Yeah.
Zomato wasn't there 8 years back. Baiju wasn't there 8 years back. Flipkart was not there 10. But as more and more products have started coming in, digital products, the demand has surged like anything, like anything. And like, I would say that at this juncture, I would find there are probably more than 50,000 opportunities of product managers across India,
Mm-hmm.
pan India, and it's a very well-to-do job. That is, and even in Baiju, since we are building like 20 odd products at the same time, it's the largest edtech company in the world. In my team itself, there are like 6-7 opportunities of product managers to come in and typically join there. So it's a very flourishing field. The only point that I would stress upon for anyone to come is that you need to be very passionate. You need to
Mm-hmm.
understand the nuances of the problem. That is the core part of product management, and that is how it would stay. It's so, as product managers, we don't look at what's going to change in the next 5 years. We try
Mm-hmm.
to see what's not going to change in the next 20 years. And
Yeah.
that is something, passion for solving a problem. That is going to be the core part. So, yes, if for the aspirants, there is huge amount of scope, and it's only going to go up as internet kind of penetrates more and more in the country. Yeah.
Okay, okay, that's good to know. And so these roles are from beginner level, like some person who is do not have any experience but still wants to try out product
Sure.
manager role or product management as a
Sure.
career.
Sure.
So the demand is like more or less the same, you say,
Yes.
across
So,
pan India.
yes, yes. So I would say that it is more centered towards the metro cities where digital products are more or startups are more. But then
Mm-hmm.
again, it's pan India only. And product management, again, as I told you, it is something like a very, very thought driven strategic thinking kind of a role. So
Yeah.
it doesn't really demand a certain background. It's
Mm-hmm.
good to have a certain background, but
Mm-hmm.
it's not the core need. Like, if you are from a tech background, you might understand tech better, but that doesn't make you a good product manager. That doesn't make you, it gives you a certain edge around it. Okay, if I can look it from a different perspective also, or a different lens also. So there are huge entry level opportunities, and entry level opportunities are only gauged at how well can you think, how well can you look at data, how well can you derive insights from that data, how well can you
Mhm.
experiment, how well can you communicate. So it's
Yeah.
more like all of those factors typically roll in into an entry level role. And I've seen, like, from my friends, I have seen people from Delhi University who have a English honors. And
Mhm.
there's a very nice friend of mine who has done his English honors from Delhi University, and he's a product manager. And the way he thinks about design is insane. Like,
Yeah.
that's crazy, right? So it is very large, very flourishing. Anybody who wants to move in, but the only thing is he has to work upon his thinking acumen. That's the only critical
Mhm.
thing that I keep repeating about. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So it is like more about what a person brings to the table with his diverse background, is it?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
okay. So what should be the career growth plan like for such aspiring product managers?
I think initially it is more like you move into an entry level associate product manager kind of a product analyst kind of a role, where you
Mhm.
support product managers in deriving those insights and try to understand what a PM does. As an
Mhm.
APM, what you try to do is you supplement product managers in building products. What I mean by supplement is that a product manager does bunch of things in a day. He doesn't have enough amount of time to go inside and vertically deep dive into problems, and that is why prioritization becomes a very strong skill set. As an APM, what you do is, for a PM, he might tell you that, okay, this is something that I'm looking at. Why don't you look at the data and come up with some sort of a tangible insight? So
Yeah.
once you do that for a year, then you typically move into a more fledged product manager kind of a role, where you define the spec, where you say, okay, I've looked at the data, now this is what I want to build. That is still an individual contributor kind of a role, where you define a feature, where you define a spec and say, this is what I want to test. Moving forward from there, you move into something like a senior product manager kind of a role, where as a senior PM, you try to look at, okay, I can manage a team of 2 or 3 PMs who are looking at 2 or 3 features or one aspect of the product, right?
Mhm.
Post that, it is typically moving to a lead PM or a principal PM kind of a role, which becomes even more strategic, where you look at a vertical, like what is the operational nuances around it, what are the positive nuances around it. And that is something that you typically keep doing, like typically lead a vertical, and then that is somewhere going down the line, the final aim is to become the CPO of the company, where you lead the entire product portfolio of the company. So you slowly move from a more execution, individual contributor kind of a role, to more product strategy kind of a role, that
Mhm.
this is what I want to solve. Like, when you are a director of product, probably you would say, I want to solve English learning for kids, as broad a statement. As you go down, at a PM level, it will become, can I build some sort of a service which takes the input from Mike and converts into English? So it
Okay.
trickles down like that, right? So
Yeah.
that is how the career ladder is typically. Yeah.
Interesting. Very interesting. So, being in edtech for some time.
Yeah.
So, how do you see this as a sector? I mean, what are the perspectives in edtech?
Sure. So I think edtech is a very big sector. If you look at the industry size across the globe, it's a
Mm-hmm.
$6 trillion industry.
Yeah.
3 trillion as classified and 3 trillion as unorganized. And in India
Mm-hmm.
also, as internet is moving, there are two fundamental pillars to education products. One is infrastructure, second is access. Infra can never be solved without government intervention. You cannot improve the quality of schools if government is not putting money there. But
Yeah.
but but what you can solve is access. Now, if I know that Shravan is a good teacher in some particular field, right now only 50 students can listen to him. But can I make it to 500,000? And that is what we are solving. So, right. So, edtech as something is going to grow very big. Like, the next 2 to 5 years, this industry is effectively going to grow 3 to 4x in size. The supplementary
Mm-hmm.
education industry and the access industry, you will see multiple products coming, and you already see, like, there's one-to-one teaching, 1 to 6 teaching, 1 to 25, 1 to mega, and there are so many products. Then there is gamified learning, doubt solving. All of these small things that you find in a tuition class are independent products, are
Yeah.
independent product in itself, right? Which you never thought of when you were in tuitions. Like, mera doubt kaun solve karega? Maybe teacher karega. Like, now there is an entire product which gives you all the knowledge and all the things in a single mobile app, and you solve it.
Yes.
So this is going to effectively go down. And the last and interesting part that is definitely going to happen in the edtech ecosystem is that
Mm-hmm.
these things are going to merge towards a common product. What I mean by that is, live learning is going to, like, right now what you see is a live stream, but here in this live stream there might be a game element that comes in. and somebody's like Monica writes on the board 2 plus 2, and some student can actually interact back and write 4 over there. So
Okay.
so this synchronous and asynchronous content is going to come together, and it's going to become a very seamless kind of a product. That is something we are never going to replace the offline ecosystem, but it is definitely going to supplement the offline ecosystem like 10x 15x. It's going to become like, for healthcare it is like diagnosis because of internet access and machine learning became 10x better. Same with education. It's going with edtech education. If it was at x, the next 5 years it's going to become 5x. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. So before we start our Q&A session, what is your last piece of advice or a suggestion to people who are aspiring to become product managers? Because our audience are having a diverse background. Like some are freshers and some are still in college, and some are professionals already looking for a career in product management. So to all these people, what is your suggestion for them?
I think the only suggestion that I would have is start doing some interesting projects on their own, and try to
Mhm.
learn how to build products. Like what I mean by building products, it can be a website. How do you build a website? How do you build an app which solves some service for you? Like it can be
Mhm.
as simple as that, and try to keep doing it and build a portfolio for yourself. Like the core problem that people keep speaking about, that people don't hire product managers without prior experience, is because you have, like, for a developer there is GitHub. He can show what he has done, right? For a
Yeah.
designer there is a design portfolio he can. But for product managers we don't have anything, right? And then you say
Yeah.
that, then why how would someone would say that I want to hire you when I don't know what you have done, right? So start
Yeah.
creating that. This is not a practice that a lot of people do, but
Mm.
you, if this starts as a practice. Like I have thought of a PRD, I have thought of a product, and I have defined the problem statement. What is it solving? How big is the scale? These are the solutions, and try to do a small POC around it. Invest
Mhm.
$20 into it. 1500 rupees. Matlab, that is the same amount of money that you probably spend on chai and other things, and all of the small Maggie and whatever you eat. That's as
Yeah.
simple as that. And if you build that portfolio and then send that portfolio across to the recruiters and tell them that this is what I've built, this is something that is relevant, that might be relevant to you, why don't you take a look? And if right now out of 10 2 people are calling you, that will significantly improve to 5 or 6 or 7.
Yeah.
Then you get that headway, that this is what I want to talk about. The second thing that I want to talk about is keep writing. Writing is very very relevant, because, and constrained writing, right? Because as a product manager it is very important that you process information a certain way. Like what I mean by that is, information processed, if there are 10 thoughts in your head, Monica doesn't
Mhm.
want to listen to 10 thoughts what Shravan wants to say. She wants to listen to the 3 thoughts which are relevant to her, which
Yeah.
are relevant to her, right? So if you
Yeah.
keep writing and put it in a constrained manner, like I want to write a concept in probably 100 words and not more than that, initially 10 times it will be crazy bad for you, like you would never be able to articulate. But slowly and steadily you keep doing it, there will be a point when you will be able to explain the concept in the best possible way. And whenever you go into an interview, the
Mhm.
interviewer would appreciate that in the first 1 minute you tell me what you bring on the table for me. Not,
Yeah.
I don't want to know what Shravan has done. I want to know what Shravan can do for me.
Yes. Yes.
So start writing. That's the second part. And the third part is generally be curious and passionate and look for problems which you are interested in. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Great. Great. That's great to know. So we'll start with our Q&A session, and the first question is, um coming from a commerce background, what would be the steps to get through in freshers roles?
Hey
In
Prathamesh,
fresher
hi.
roles.
Thank you very much. First of all, saying that my posts are amazing. I try to do my best, whatever it is. So I would again emphasize on the same thing, Prathamesh, that pick a problem. Very simply, pick a problem, try to solve it, and more pertinent. Like if you want to get into a company which you aspire, like you feel that Swiggy is a great place to work, right? Swiggy is a great place to work, and I want to see how they are building the best food products in the country. Pick a particular problem. Like it can be as simple as that. आपने स्विगी में देखा होगा. It is as simple as that. Building a single order multiple restaurant booking is not possible. Like if you want to buy ice cream and biryani, you cannot do it in the same order. Probably pick that problem, solve it across. I know they would have thought about it, 100% they would have thought about it, and they would have not done it because of some constraint. But now what will happen is when you send your resume across, they would say, okay, this is a problem that users are facing, and he tried to solve it. So why don't we give this guy a chance to solve some interesting problem which is there in the company, and they would call you for an interview. Do it for the top 5 companies that you want to do, or 5 or 6 or 7 or odd companies. Slowly and steadily you will get into that headway that people will start giving you opportunities, and they would say, this is how the guy thinks. The second interesting thing that I would say is create your profile. Like, why did I start in LinkedIn? Was 2 values. One, that fundamentally people should understand what opinions I bring to the table, so that create opportunities as an inbound for you, not outbound. Right now what happens, job search is more like an outbound search. You apply to positions, right? But if you
Yeah.
create a brand for yourself, if you write things which people like, more often than not people will reach out to you. So you became the center, because they already know how you think. They already know what kind of content you bring to the table. So at that point of time, so I would suggest, do the second thing, that start writing on LinkedIn. Don't be afraid of feedback. That's the second part. And the third part that I would say is that if possible, start reading some good books, some good books about how products were built, so that it helps you improve your thought process in a structured manner. Any course, any book would help you improve your thought process, not make you a great thinker, but help you define that way. So look into certain aspects. Like, there's a very nice book called The Hard Thing About Hard Things. You can start over there also. That's a very nice book. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
great. So next question is from Richa, which is very interesting and also most relevant. So
Yeah.
also, could you please let us know how much CTC on an average can an associate product manager, like someone who is just breaking into product management, expect in India? So
uh, Very interesting. So, see, honestly, Richa, it would be, well, like, if I have to give you a range, it can vary as much as from 12 lakh rupees to as high as 30 lakh rupees. There's no fixed range. It depends on where you are getting in. It depends on, really depends on where you're getting in. And the second aspect, it really also depends on what kind of associate product manager program they have. What I mean by that is, a lot of companies focus a lot on these programs because they know that these are the leaders of the future. So they supplement them in very good ways, right? But in a lot of places, product manager is more like a run of a mill job, where you do a lot of operation stuff, you do try to patch things. So to answer your question in a very average way, it would be somewhere around 14 to 15 lakh rupees you would initially expect. That should be very easy for you to typically understand. But then again, that should not be the benchmark of why you want to move into that. It's a good paying field, but the benchmark should be that if that problem really interests you and you really like the culture of how they're solving a problem, that's it. Yeah.
yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Then the next question is from Shriram. Hi, this is Dr. Shriram from VIT Bhopal. Great to see your passion. The question for fresher ask is how to build a portfolio for your work in product management, how to be different from others. I think this is what all the while you are highlighting.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So I think
to be distinctive.
from a portfolio point of view, I think what you should do is, first of all, you should look at a problem, any problem that excites you, any problem that you effectively feel like that. Okay, how do you improve Google Maps? If you feel that there's a problem in Google Maps which you have faced, how do you improve it? You look at the problem, try to understand that what is the scope of the problem, what is the scale of the problem. There can be multiple ways to do that. You go on the internet and see how many people are facing the same problem. You find opinions about that problem. You identify what is the need, why am I solving it, what are the core challenges there. That then you list down those challenges, that this is one challenge, this is another challenge, this is third challenge. Then typically on each of the challenges, try to come up with some solutions that you want to talk about. The solutions can come from your research, they can come from you asking friends, they can come from you spending time with yourself and looking at other products in the market and come up with solutions. And then you try to put across that how that solution would fundamentally help that solve that problems, and look at the pros and cons of that solution. Like there is a pro to the solution, there's a con to the solution, and then that is how. And at the very last, probably do a visual sketch of it. Like, this is how the solution would look like on a screen. This is how, because typically, as Monica also mentioned, that it is digital products, right? So they would want to see the visual element of, and build a visual element around it, and then send it across. That's how your entire product document should look like, and that is what you think and start adding as product management. Yeah.
Okay, hope that answers your question, Sriram. Then moving to next question from Mitlesh, is product management a part of operations management?
Mm, I don't necessarily know what is operations management, but then again, I would say that product management is a very multidisciplinary cross functional kind of a structure where operations also becomes a part of it, because products are not necessarily just about building features or apps or something. It is about how to make the business model work. Like a product manager in Ola would not necessarily only take care of the app. He would also take care of how much supply is there. Is the onboarding part easy? And that is an operations part. So he would try to simplify that process also. So as an encompassing field, it's a multidisciplinary field, and
Mhm.
operation is a part of it. But I'm not sure if it really answers your question that is it a part of operational management or not. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So next question from Hazrat. How does one transition career to product manager with no prior experience in that field? Almost companies don't hire a PM without any prior
I
experience.
think it is the same question that I've answered like
Yeah.
multiple times. I think the only way, Hazrat, is that you start creating a portfolio for yourself, you send it across to multiple companies, and then the second thing that I've told you, start writing, create inbound opportunities for yourself so that people get attracted to your thought process, not necessarily your resume. It can be you might have seen so many creators on LinkedIn who don't come from very stellar background, the typical stellar black backgrounds that we talk about, IIT, IIM, Harvard, Stanford, but there are a lot of people who reach out to them because they think a certain way. So
Yeah.
create a portfolio, build a small brand for yourself, and that can very simply happen is you start shelling out content, whatever you like, and do those things, and then send across your resumes to those companies with your portfolio, with your LinkedIn profile, something that attracts those recruiters, and they would give you an opportunity to speak across, agnostic of whether you have a background or not. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Then next question from Sunita, I guess, just went off. Okay. Yeah, Sunita is asking how to take customer or consumer feedback in other fields where there might not be possible to get direct access to connect with them. I think this is more on like if your customers are indirect, which are
Yeah.
not the end users, how do you take the feedback from them, which is, think, a
Sure.
great problem to highlight. Yeah.
Sure. So I think feedback doesn't necessarily have to be direct. There can be like internet is everywhere right now, right? You can go to forums where people have spoken
Yes.
about the problem. You can look at the complaints, like what are the complaints that in the complaint forum of India. You can go to some existing product which is trying to solve that problem. Look at their feedback. Like if how do you select a product on Amazon? You go there and first you look at the feedback that what people are talking about. You don't know those people, right? So there is no direct access, but it gives you enough insight that whether I should purchase it or not. And more often than not, it is the right insight. Like I would not say out of 100% time it's 100% right, but 80% of the time it is generally right. So there can be multiple other ways. The other way can be that you can float some sort of a survey and do a simple ad kind of a structure, like spend some money around it, maybe $50, run an ad and see how many people are interested into it. Now you don't have to necessarily go there, but this is very simple to do, right? Or what you can start functionally doing is go to social platforms and put your thoughts there and say how many people are interested into it, right? And then you get feedback from those people and you get leads from there also, where you can connect with them digitally, right? So you can find on the internet, you can research on the internet, you can look at existing products, you can go to social media platforms, put your thoughts there, see the feedback of people, you can run ads, do small experiments over there. So there are absolutely like no dearth of ways to reaching out to people to find feedback. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So next question from Aniket. Do PM generally stay more on the R&D section or on the application sector too?
uh, so R&D, I'm not sure how much it's a part of a product manager's life. Maybe in some companies which build very very deep learning kind of a products or deep tech products where R&D might be, or something like a bio products. Like if you go to Biocon and if you join there as a PM, then it might be very very R&D driven. So I think in most companies where we build consumer products, it is a balance. It is like 60% you keep on iterating because ideas are easy, execution is everything. That is something that you keep talking. If you don't execute well, then you don't get feedback, then you don't improve, right? So in most consumer tech companies, it is very simple that you spend like 60% of the time in executing the product strategy and 40% of the time on ideating about new things, new thought processes.
Mhm.
Slowly and steadily, it should move to the point that 70% of your time is going on ideating and 30% towards execution, so that you automate a lot of structures. Because execution is something that most of other teams do. PMs typically bring insights across. Yeah.
Okay, so I think we have time only to have one more question, which is, how do you handle the team and your day-to-day tasks? I think this is more specific to you than what we have discussed later as a what is a role of a product manager's
Yeah.
day.
Yeah.
So
So
yeah,
I think from my team standpoint, I try to give them a lot of autonomy. I try to understand that how logical they are, and I typically don't intervene or meddle into a lot of things that they bring to the table unless there is some core bottleneck that I need to solve for. Like there is something from a strategic point of view that I want to solve for. So I think I back my subordinates a lot. I try to tell them that come up with innovative solutions. Don't be averse of speaking what you feel there is in your heart, and that autonomy brings a lot of passion in them, a lot of curiosity in them, and they come up with more often than not good solutions, which is effectively good for me as a lead, so that
yeah.
effectively I can position those solutions across. Yeah.
Yeah,
So that is
that's a quick one. So let's have one more last question from Sriram. Does your role need coding knowledge? We have students who say we can design things, but we cannot code. So I think is basically asking about, do you really require a coding knowledge to do this job?
not necessarily not relevant, but like it's good to have. It's like a skill set that, again, I told that it's a good to have kind of a thing, but not necessarily it's a necessary thing to have. The second thing that I would say is that in this particular field, coding is would be very relevant if you want to go to a deep tech kind of a firm, if you want to join the machine learning division of Google. So there might be coding might be a very strong criteria there, because the product is complex, but most consumer tech companies don't require product managers to code. It's good to have, not necessary. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Shevan. This has been a really honor to speak with you, and this is like the most energetic discussion I have ever been part of. Thank you so
Thank you
much
very
for
much,
your time.
Mark. It has been a pleasure from my side also. Thanks a lot, guys, and best of luck. Do well.